This MLB betting pick show for Game 2 of the Wild Card Series edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Game Time. Snag the tickets without the stress. Use promo code SGPN on your first purchase to save $20. Download the Game Time app and use promo code SGPN. Roster brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has just added Pick'em Scorchers where you can win 100 times your money. That's right, 100 times your money. Turn your $5 into $500 in one game. Plus, every Sunday, they're giving away $100,000. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $500. Finally, we're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Wednesday, October 4th, currently 11:06 a.m. on the East Coast. Here early to get into the Game 2 picks for the Wild Card Series. We'll recap what we saw in Game 1 and also give out our picks for the 4 Wild Card games happening on Wednesday throughout the day, starting at 3 p.m. on the East Coast, the first game between the Rangers and the Rays. But joining me here to help me break it all down, you guys know him as the voice of the NBA Gambling Podcast, WNBA Gambling Podcast, Tennis Gambling Podcast, the NFL Gambling Podcast, and of course here on the MLB Gambling Podcast is Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Looking forward to going through some games. I know yesterday I was on the show with Mal, and we went through some futures. So it's nice to go through some games. Should be fun. Looking forward to what should be a very entertaining day of baseball. How would you describe the first day? Because I was expecting a bunch of low-scoring games, and we got 3 unders and 1 over. The 1 over, you can argue, some people were extremely hurt by because it happened in the 9th inning. But to be honest, that Brewers-Diamondbacks game, they went 4 for 21?
Something, yeah.
It's like 4 for 24. Like, they had guys on base every inning. So that wasn't even a bad beat. But it was kind of what you expect from the first day of the playoffs. A lot of nerves, a lot of missed opportunities, and taking advantage of whatever you can in order to win. And whoever actually came through in big moments won the game. As simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it gets very intense when we talk about it, especially MLB playoffs, because a lot of these pitchers, we'll talk about it throughout the MLB playoffs as well as we, kind of go to the divisional series and eventually the championship series, that some of these pitchers have a very short leash, and then some of these pitchers, just go out there and carry over the momentum that they had towards the end of the season, right into the wild card games, or even in the divisional round games. And I think that started in that first game between the Rangers and the Rays, which started around 3:08 Eastern time yesterday. And we'll just kind of go through chronological order here. We'll recap the game ones of each of the series, and then we'll give our game 2 picks for each of the series as well. So, like I mentioned, the first game yesterday, we'll just dive right into it here, Scott. Rangers and the Rays in Tampa. Jordan Montgomery got the start there for the Texas Rangers, and then Tyler Glasnow got the start there for the Tampa Bay Rays. And I think that in this game, at least, the downfall for the Tampa Bay Rays was obviously the 4 errors that they had in this game. Very unlike the Tampa Bay Rays, who I guess pride themselves, playing small ball baseball, stealing bases, sacrificing, and playing good defense. But yesterday, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Jordan Montgomery for the way that he did pitch for this Texas Rangers team, because down the stretch in the final 4 games of the regular season, when he was out there, he was absolutely lights out. And that carried over into this game against the Tampa Bay Rays. He went 7 shutout innings against the Rays. He allowed 6 hits, had 5 strikeouts in that game. Meanwhile, Tyler Glasnow struggled a little bit. I mean, 5 innings, he allowed 3 earned runs, 6 hits. He did have 8 strikeouts, but he also did have 5 walks that he issued to the Texas Rangers. And the Rangers, number one, were able to take advantage of the errors that the Rays committed, and also they got timely at-bats from their hitters there as well. I know you and I were talking offline that I thought this game would go the other way, that I thought the Rays would win around 4-0, 4-1, 4-2.
That's what I said. I don't know if you agreed with me, but that's what I said.
Yeah, I like the Rays team total over yesterday at 3.5, but they got shut out. But what was your thoughts on this game here from yesterday, as Rangers have a 1-0 lead in this wild card game or wild card series?
Well, you mentioned the errors. Tampa had 3 errors in the first 2 innings?
Yeah.
It was not pretty. And what I just said earlier was you got to take advantage of your opportunities. And that was really the story of the day. A lot of really poor situational hitting by a lot of teams out there. And it seemed like whichever team actually got the big hit was the team that ended up winning the game. And it just seemed like Texas got some timely hits. Tampa got none. If they did, they wouldn't have gotten shut out at home. Yeah. I do want to ask you, though, thoughts on the attendance? Because some reports came out about how bad the attendance was for Tampa in that playoff game, one of the lowest playoff attendance games in MLB history for a playoff spot. I'm not shocked because it's Tampa. I'm shocked they're trying to rebuild the stadium in the same venue or the same city, which I think is a complete waste of time. But are you shocked or no, because they put a damn baseball game in the middle of the afternoon on a weekday?
That's exactly what my thoughts were. So I'm looking at the official, I guess, count. I don't know how official this is, but 19,000. Yeah, 19,704 were in attendance. Their capacity is right just a hair above 25,000. So they had about 79% filled. But I think exactly what the point that you mentioned, it's that it's a Tuesday afternoon game where a lot of people are at work, not being able to attend the game, whether it was in Tampa or, I know the other stadiums were pretty much full, but it's Tampa. I mean, I think they've been used to low attendance, throughout their history when they've been playing at Tropicana Field. But
can I interest you in a Wednesday game at the exact same time for a weekday? You think the attendance is going to look the same, or do you think it's going to be a little bit packed today?
We got to put a side bet here. Do we think it's going to be more than 19,704 on Wednesday, or do we think it's going to be less than 19,704?
I'm going to lean more because they're facing elimination. So maybe you get some desperate fans, but then again, I'm not sure how many fans Tampa has anyway. I'll lean on the over on that one. Then again, you never know with these sellout crowd numbers, because the Yankees had a bunch of sellouts and you look at the stands and nobody's there.
Yeah.
Because they get bought by a lot of companies and it goes corporate. And then they just buy out the tickets, so it's a sellout, but nobody goes to the games. So I'm not saying it's the same problem with Tampa, but I do wonder when they said 19,000, if there were actually 19,000 people, because it looked like maybe 13,000. I'm just going to put it that way. There were a lot of empty seats.
Yeah. Anything else from game one and before we get to the game two picks?
Well, I mentioned before that Tampa couldn't generate any big hits, but props to Montgomery. He was great down the stretch for Texas.
Yeah.
I imagine Montgomery looking pretty good in pinstripes, but I don't know why I have that feeling in my head, because I heard they got rid of him because they didn't think that he was worth a damn. But nice job by him in game one. Came through. He was great in September. I don't want to say he helped carry Texas because they still blew the division, but that wasn't his fault. He did his part.
Yeah.
I'm not going to assume Tampa's going to roll over, but then again, I mentioned this on the podcast yesterday. I called Tampa frauds halfway through the year because I didn't trust their lineup, and I had concerns about guys besides Yandy and Randy. And I know the Lows ended up having a pretty good year, but I really wasn't sold by the back half of their entire lineup, and nobody really scared me in that entire lineup, and nothing changed. So I don't think Tampa's going to roll over, and facing Uvalde, we'll talk about in a second, is definitely easier than facing off against Montgomery at this point in the season. But the Rays have to show up and do something, because that was an embarrassing showing for game one.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't score any runs, you're not going to win very many ball games. So let's get into the game two, at least for this Rangers and the Rays game here. Like you mentioned here, Scott, it is going to be Nathan Eovaldi getting the start here for the Texas Rangers. and it'll be Zach Eflin getting the start here for the Tampa Bay Rays. Currently, the Rays are a minus 148 home favorite, plus 124 on the money line for the Texas Rangers. Total is set at 8 with juice towards the under at minus 115. Run line minus 1.5, plus 136 for the Tampa Bay Rays, and plus 1.5, minus 162 for the Texas Rangers. And I know throughout the season we talked a lot about Zach Eflin on the podcast, Scott, and he was absolutely dominant at Tropicana Field this season for the Tampa Bay Rays. 18 starts at home this season. He finished with a record of 11-4 with a 3.30 ERA. Down the stretch, he did give up, 3 earned runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, but fortunately, the offense just showed up in those games for the Tampa Bay Rays, where they won all 5 of those last 5 starts during the regular season, where Zach Eflin made. I do not believe he faced the Rangers this season. No, he hasn't faced him yet since the 2017 season.
Uvalde was actually good against Tampa, but that was pre-injury when he was an all-star in the first half, which I don't think really means anything.
Yeah. Nathan Eovaldi this season, 12-5 with a 3.63 ERA. On the road this season, 13 starts, 6-2 with a 3.56 ERA. And over his last 5 starts for the Texas Rangers, 1-1 with an 8.05 ERA. He allowed 17 earned runs in 19 innings pitched. Did face the Rays twice this season in 2 starts, 12 1/3 innings pitched. Allowed 4 hits. He allowed 4 earned runs, 9 hits, 8 strikeouts to 6 walks. And his last start was against the Mariners, where he got absolutely blasted in 3 1/3 innings. He allowed 7 earned runs in 5 innings. He allowed 2 home runs each to the Mariners in his last 2 starts of the regular season here. Win or go home for the Tampa Bay Rays here, Scott. Which way are you leaning for this game?
Even though I've given Tampa a hard time this year, rightfully so, because they did end up losing the division after one of the best starts possible, I do think that they're going to show up for this game. Texas have had a hard time fully trusting down the stretch. I'm sure you've had a great time because, Houston was able to win the division anyway. But Texas in big moments has come up pretty short. And now the pressure is kind of back onto them because they have a chance to advance to the next round. And I do wonder if Texas will no-show this game like they did for 3 out of 4 games against Seattle. But looking at this matchup, I see Wicked's mentioning he doesn't trust the Rays. I don't blame you, but I trust Uvalde less. There's nothing to like about Uvalde right now. And I feel like looking at the situation for him, I don't know if he goes more than 3 innings. I don't know how long he's actually going to go. I'm kind of shocked Bochy's using him in game 2. I guess the argument is we won a game, we can potentially steal one. But Uvalde's been just an absolute disaster. I mean, the last 6 starts, 20 1/3 innings pitched, a 9.3 ERA, got buried in the Seattle series in a game they kind of needed. And I think he gave up 7 runs in like 3 innings. He gave up the home run to J.P. Crawford. It was ugly. He got kind of destroyed in that start. But looking at the Rays starting pitcher, Eflin's been good all season long and down the stretch. Last 8 starts, 45 1/3 innings pitched, 2.98 ERA. Tampa's still a very solid home team, no matter how many fans actually show up to their games. I think Tampa gets back on track. I just think Montgomery, who's been in great form, showed up and had a very good start. Uvalde just doesn't have anything left as far as I'm concerned. I don't know why I'm expecting him to flip a switch when he's been just ineffective for the last month and a half. And I'm just shocked he's pitching game 2. I thought they would try to bring him out of the bullpen, maybe rebuild his confidence or something. But are you shocked that he's pitching game 2? Because I know based on his season numbers, it makes sense. But he's not even going length. He's pitching like 2-3 innings recently. He's given them nothing.
Yeah, I'm shocked to see him out there as well. And I know we talked about at the top of the show that I mentioned that, pitchers are going to be on a very, a very short leash. And I think that's going to be the case here for Eovaldi, because if he's in any type of trouble within that first inning or second inning, Bochy's going to get out there and pull the trigger on him, because he didn't have to use his bullpen much yesterday when you had Jordan Montgomery going 7 innings. But again, it's the Texas Rangers bullpen. I know you and I have talked about at volumes that just has not been very good at all this season. So I agree. I'm not sure why he's throwing Nathan Eovaldi out there. You mentioned that, hey, maybe he's thinking that, hey, we got game 1. Let's throw out Eovaldi and let's get back home and see if we can wrap it up back at home in Arlington in Texas. So Yeah, I am shocked to see him out there to answer your question there.
Yeah, I just don't fully get it, but I'll try to capitalize and hopefully the Rays get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm on the Rays here as well. Zach Eflin at home was a pretty much a cash cow all season long, and I think that he continues to pitch very well here in this game to even up the series for the Tampa Bay Rays, and then heading back to Arlington for Game 3. Currently, I again make sure you shop around for the best number because there's a ranging from -140 to -151 as far as the Tampa Bay Rays money line goes here. Anything on the total here, Scott? I think we probably both may be leaning on the Rangers team total over. Rays team total over in this game.
Yeah, I thought about the first 5 team total over, but it was at 2.5, and
Yeah.
that might be a little bit high for me. But then again, I'm expecting Evolved to get shelled, so I have no shame in that. I think my favorite play is going to be Rays first 5, either on the money line. I saw -138 on FanDuel or the run line in the first 5, which I think was around even money. Even money fading Evaldi for a team that, listen, I know once again Tampa can't really hit that well, but they're not like a scrub team. I mean, they still won 90 plus games. They're facing elimination. They're at home. I do expect a sense of urgency to show. I don't think Tampa's going to roll over and die in back-to-back games. I think they come out swinging figuratively and literally, and hopefully they make contact with the ball. But I am going to go with the Rays first 5 on the run line. I think even money's a good price. Fading Evaldi, who once again has just been an absolute gas can for the last month and a half.
Yeah, Joe Flo mentioning first 5 run line for the Rays. So I agree about that as well. So he had -105 for that first 5 run line. If you do have access to books like DraftKings, I do see Tampa Bay Rays first 3 innings team total over 1.5 +135. I don't hate that.
That's probably the ceiling of what Evaldi goes, or maybe he'll go 4 if he doesn't get into any trouble. But 2 runs first 3, yeah, I guess I got to be fine with that because if I'm picking Tampa first 5, my sole handicap is they're getting at least 1 or 2 off Evaldi, and then you're hoping F1 deals.
Yeah, and I also want to mention that I know it was with Glass now on the mound. The Rangers struck out 8 times, but I'm curious to see what the strikeout prop for Eflin is today. It's at 5.5 at +115. I'm not sure I can get there with that. Not really a strikeout pitcher type of, or not really a strikeout pitcher is Zach Eflin. Anything else for this game here or this series here, Scott, for Rangers and Rays?
Well, Kaysen's mentioned in the Rays to score first today is +260, which conceptually I can understand because they're the home team, so you're automatically going to get a better price because if Texas scores in the top of the first, then you don't get a chance to match it. +260 is massive.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely worth it.
Just for the value.
Yeah, that's definitely worth it.
All right, before we get over to the next the next wild card series for this Wednesday afternoon schedule, maybe you guys are in a city where games are being played for this wild card series and you want to get out there. Let Game Time help you out. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't have to be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you're going to have. Their app is really easy to use. They have some great features on the app. They have flash deals and last-minute tickets, like I mentioned. And it's really easy to find tickets and buy tickets for every type of event in your area, not just sporting events, but like I mentioned, they also have theater tickets, comedy shows, music events as well. The best part I love about their app is that you get an image of your seat before you make your purchase to exactly what to expect when you actually get to that specific venue. And there's no surprises when you actually get there. Their lowest prices are guaranteed, event cancellation protection as well. Forget planning months in advance, and Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of for the event. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. That's how confident they are in their prices. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And we're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort our players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, Scott, let's get over to the next series.
By the way, one thing, Kaysen said that the Rays first inning money line is plus 260. I'm assuming on the three-way line, Rays to score first is even money. That makes a lot more sense, but I still don't mind even money. But the Rays first inning money line, it's a three-way line, so you're going to lose if they tie, but 260? If you have some money you want to throw in, some fun coupons, throw it in a massive parlay or something.
Yeah, I think that I think the Rays will I think they have to come out on fire, because I think if they don't score within those first couple innings, I think they may get into a little bit of trouble, especially against Nathan Eovaldi, who, like we mentioned, has been a gas can over the last month or so for the Texas Rangers. Next series here, Scott, on the Wednesday schedule, we'll go over to the series between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Minnesota Twins. Sound the trumpets here, Scott, because the Minnesota Twins break their playoff losing streak. I think it was 18 straight games or 19 straight games they had lost in the playoffs.
18.
But yeah, so it's officially over for that losing streak as they take care of business in game one on their home field. They get a 3-1 victory over the Toronto Blue Jays. And I mean, this was pretty much a game where it was, number one, a great pitching performance from Pablo Lopez to start this game here. But also, it was just a game where, was it Royce Lewis is his name? Yeah. I always forget his first name, but he just pretty much took care of scoring all the runs for the Minnesota Twins. He had a 2-run bomb in the first inning off of Kevin Gausman. And then I believe it was in the third inning, he added another one, a solo home run for the Minnesota Twins offense. And that pretty much carried the Twins all the way to a 3-1 victory in this game. Kevin Gausman lasts only 4 innings in this game. Like I mentioned, he gave up three earned runs and 3 walks in that game as well. He did have 5 strikeouts. Bullpen came in and did a pretty decent job after that. They only allowed 2 hits after the 4 innings that Kevin Gausman went. And then for the Twins, Pablo Lopez, like I mentioned, 5 2/3 innings yesterday for the Minnesota Twins. He had 3 strikeouts, 5 hits he allowed, and only 1 earned run in that game for the Minnesota Twins. So the Twins get the monkey off of their back and now are in the driver's seat to win this wild card series against the Blue Jays here, Scott. But takeaways from this game yesterday before we get to the game 2 picks.
Toronto just can't let us have nice things, man. I'm running out of jokes in sports. You know, the Twins not winning a playoff game since 2004 is one of the best jokes we had left in the entire, or really the sports world at this point. And now we got nothing. But I ended up tweeting something out on, I think it was yesterday morning. I said, I'm going to be so mad when the Blue Jays end up killing the funniest meme left in baseball over the next 2 days. And it took about 5 hours. They just wouldn't let us have any nice things, but it's Toronto. I mean, they're the team we thought they were. It's why Malcolm hates this team. It's why I don't think any of us actually like this team. It's not even because of the fact I'm a Yankees fan. It's because you can't trust this team at all. Yeah. This team no-shows offensively, despite having a lot of talent on paper. Bo Bichette was leading the league in hits for a decent portion of the year. Got injured, but I know he's still a great talent. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a great talent as well, but to be honest, he might be one of the most overrated players in the league. That's a separate conversation, but people expect a lot of big things from him. When you have a pretty good hitting core and your offense constantly goes AWOL, we're going to criticize you for it. And the team did nothing. And Gausman wasn't great yesterday, but in theory, he was fine. Lopez was okay. You got to get some runs across against the Minnesota bullpen, though. They had some chances. They got 1 run across. They stranded a bunch of guys on base. But this is Toronto. This is why we all thought collectively, I think Dylan felt the same way, that Toronto, despite being a potential playoff team, is not a danger to anybody because they will get in their own way all the time. It's just how it goes. And Minnesota, even though they were not exactly the greatest team on paper and they played in a joke of a division, they won 87 games. Like, they really had a decent year, and I feel like people didn't notice because every other team in that division wave the white flag with a month and a half to go in the season. But Minnesota at home is a solid team. I picked them to win the series. I thought they would actually get the job done here because there's no pressure on Minnesota.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone just expected Toronto to find a way to win, general media, because Minnesota had the streak and everything like that. But Toronto's not that good. And Minnesota at home is kind of dangerous. And I do think that Minnesota is actually going to close it out today. I don't trust Toronto. Maybe they show up. Maybe they get some key hits. But do I trust Berrios on the road? Not really. I know it's against his former team and all, but I think Sonny Gray is fine. I had some problems with him earlier in the middle of the year when he had a bit of a slump, but he bounced back nicely in the back half. I'm taking Minnesota. I just don't trust Toronto enough. I feel like this is a spot where Toronto should get up for this game because they need to. They're facing elimination. But if I told you Toronto showed up today and scored 1 run and lost the game 4-1, nobody would be surprised because this is what Toronto is.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been able to figure out the Toronto team during the regular season at all. They were a thorn in my side. Anytime I did back them, I would get burned. Anytime I would fade them, I would get burned. So, I mean, when your top 3 hitters, Scott, go 1 of 13 combined, you're not going to win very many ball games at all. And that was the case yesterday with this Toronto Blue Jays team. George Springer 0 for 5, Brandon Belt 0 for 4, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 1 for 4 yesterday for the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm not sure why.
It's not even about going like 1 for 13. It's about the actual quality of the at-bats. If you had a hard line drive at somebody and you fly out, okay, that's fine. At least you constructed something. Toronto has no game plan for any of their batters. They just go up there and try to swing as hard as they can, and there's no strategy to any of their at-bats. I don't know if you noticed the same thing, but the first couple innings against Lopez, they weren't even trying to see pitches. It just felt like they were trying to just free swing away.
I noticed that throughout the game as well. In the time that I was watching this game, it's like, especially with Vlad, like he just kind of gets up there to just hit every ball out of the stadium. Like that's not going to work for you.
He
especially
swings out
in
of his
playoffs.
shoes, and it's like he's not even trying to make contact with the ball. He's just trying to if he does make contact, hit it 450. You know, a double's not too bad.
Yeah,
a line drive, a hit, just generate some pressure, something. That's all Rain can get into because there was a lot of really bad hitting in at-bats in all 4 games yesterday. But Toronto kind of jumped off the page. A lot of their bats, it just seemed like they weren't even trying to read a situation. They just went up there saying, I'm trying to hit a home run or I'm striking out.
Yeah. So this will be a 4:38 Eastern start for Game 2. Same schedule as yesterday on Tuesday. So like we mentioned, Jose Berrios is going to get the start here for Game 2 for the Toronto Blue Jays. And Sonny Gray is on the mound here for the Minnesota Twins. Twins are a -140 home favorite, +120 on the money line for the Toronto Blue Jays. Total is set at 8 in this game. Run line, -1.5, +154 for the Minnesota Twins, and +1.5, -185 here for the Toronto Blue Jays here. Scott, I know you already kind of tipped your hand there thinking Minnesota closes out, but how do you kind of see this game playing out?
The 140 might seem a bit steep. Once again, I do think Minnesota's going to win, but for a total of 7.5, I think I am leaning to the under. I just think this number's a bit high. It's mostly, once again, expecting Toronto to no-show this game offensively, and Berrios has been fine for the most part, but Minnesota offensively in the game yesterday really didn't do anything either. In fact, one guy did everything for the entire team. So I'm giving Toronto a hard time because nobody showed up. Lewis was the only guy who showed up on the entire team. So I'm on the under. I don't think either team constructed good at-bats. We've seen Minnesota strike out basically more than any other team in the league this year. I don't see many runs in this game, and Minnesota's bullpen did a pretty good job yesterday. They ended up getting Duran to close it out. Nice diving stop by the first baseman to close out the game there. But I think looking at this game, I'm going to lean to the under because it wasn't just Toronto. Minnesota didn't exactly have great at-bats either, and I think 7.5 is a bit high. I'm going to lean to the under. You tend to see a lot more unders in the playoffs because of the nerves and the overall intensity with every pitch. I think this number's too high. Regardless of who wins this game, I see a 4-2 type final. I'm on the under. I think 7.5 is a bit high.
Yeah, I mean, Royce Lewis yesterday was responsible for 2 of the 5 hits yesterday for the Minnesota Twins, right? And obviously he drove in all 3 runs yesterday with the 2 home runs that he did have. So outside of that, the rest of the 8 guys in this lineup, I know there was some, pinch hitters and things like that were responsible for only 3 hits, and they did strike out as a team 11 times yesterday. 5 of those was by Kevin Gausman, and then the other 6 came from the bullpen. You take a look at Jose Berrios since he departed this Minnesota Twins team. 5 appearances against this team. He has a 3-1 record with a 4.03 ERA, 35 strikeouts in those 5 games, and he's given up at least 3 earned runs in 4 out of those 5 starts. He did have a start earlier this season, all the way back in May. At the end of the month, in May, 5 2/3 innings in that game, 4 hits, 5 walks he allowed in that game. He also had 5 strikeouts in that game as well. I'm kind of torn here. I agree about the under. That number is, I think we're getting a better number at 8 right now in this game as well. So I also do. I think I'm going to roll with Minnesota in the first 5 innings because, again, I don't trust his bullpen. And I've seen this numerous times throughout the season that anytime I would back Sonny Gray full game, the bullpen would come in and just absolutely collapse the game and just lose the game outright. This was towards the beginning of the season, but Sonny Gray has lost 4 straight starts at home dating back to the end of the regular season. That was against the Guardians, the Rays, the Angels, and the A's. So that doesn't get me excited about backing the Twins full game here. At home this season, he was 7-10 straight up, or were the Twins. But again, a lot of those losses came towards the end of the season for the Twins when Sonny Gray was on the mound. So I love the under in this game. I agree with that. I'll lean with the Twins in the first 5. Would I be shocked if Blue Jays pulled this out 3-2 or something in that neighborhood and then get back to Toronto for game 3? No. But like you also mentioned, if the Twins win, would I be shocked? No. So I'll lean with the Twins in the first 5 innings here, Scott. I love the under. That's my favorite play. I'm also going to take a dabble on Jose Berrios' strikeouts in this game. It's at 4.5 at it's -160. I'll wait for a 5.5 to pop up. I think he can have a decent start. And like we mentioned, this team struck out the most during the regular season, did the Minnesota Twins. And even yesterday, they struck out 11 times. And 5 of those came from Kevin Gausman, the starter. So I think that Jose Berrios should be able to get over this number 4.5 if you want to lay the juice there, or if you want to wait for a 5.5 to get that at plus money. So I'm leaning towards that way in this game here. Anything else for this game?
I was going to say, I think I have to agree with you because Gausman only went 4, and Toronto used 5 relievers in a game that they were trailing by 2 runs for basically the entire game.
Yeah.
I understand why they did it. They used Hicks for 25 pitches, so he's definitely not going to be available for today. But I do wonder, once again, win or lose. I know if Berrios struggles, they're going to pull him anyway because it's an elimination game. But you use 5 relievers there, you're going to try to get as much as you can out of the starter.
Yeah. Anything else for this game?
No, not really. I thought, once again, it was going to be a lower scoring game. So if you want to go for the no-hit market on individual batters, you can take that approach. I'll look at some head-to-head numbers, go through those, but you had a combined 11 hits for both teams in game 1. If you want to go for the no-hit market and back on some and fade some guys who strike out a lot, who just had some really abysmal bats, a lot of guys who had that in game 1, a lot of plus money out there. I wouldn't mind taking some flyer on a couple of guys who you think might just not be able to get a hit in this game.
All right, before we get over to the next wild card series, let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite football team all season long. Underdog has just introduced Scorchers. Go 5 for 5 in Pick'em Scorchers and enjoy a spicy 100 times your payout. That's right. I said 100 times your payout if you go 5 for 5 in the Pick'em Scorchers. From now, today is the last day, October 4th. Underdog is matching 100% of your first deposit of up to $500 plus. 100,000 Sundays continue on Underdog Fantasy. 10 lucky players will win $10,000 each. So watch along, make your picks, and maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or their website, underdogfantasy.com. And when you sign up with promo code SGPN up until today, October 4th, Underdog will double your first deposit of up to $500. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy. Make sure to use that promo code SGPN. All right, Scott, let's get over to the next wild card series. We'll go over to the National League now. The next game will be a 7 o'clock Eastern start. That's going to be the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Milwaukee Brewers. Yesterday, the Diamondbacks get the job done against the Milwaukee Brewers. I believe this was a 6-3 final. Both pitchers struggled early on in this game. It was like 3-3 at the end of, I think, what was it, the second or third inning? So the bats came to play, combined 21 hits yesterday between these two teams. Milwaukee got out to a 3-0 lead. And at that point, if you were a Brewers fan and having Corbin Burnes on the mound, you were feeling pretty good about yourself. But Diamondbacks come back in that third inning. They put up 3 runs against Corbin Burnes. But what were your takeaways from this game?
Brewers should have done more in the first inning.
Yeah.
That was really the summary of it for me. I know that it was a long game and both teams didn't generate any big hits, or mostly they ended up having a lot of poor at-bats before Walker blew it open in the 9th inning with that 2-run double. But watching the game, I saw Burnes get through the first inning for Milwaukee, and then Milwaukee scored 1 run. The first 3 guys got on base for Milwaukee. They had first and second no outs while up 1-0, and the next 3 batters struck out. And at that point, I'm looking at the game going, like, I think Burnes is still going to find a way to win this game. But if they lose, you're going to have to circle that first inning because Fod in the entire game had 4 strikeouts, and 3 of them were on 3 straight batters with first and second no outs in the first inning. You got to do better than that.
Yep.
You can't have 3 guys strike out with first and second no outs. And that was a microcosm of the entire just day. Milwaukee couldn't get a key hit. Longoria had the big double play where he caught that line drive with the bases loaded, which saved a couple runs. But once again, same story, different game. Teams constructing bad at-bats, teams not being able to actually generate runs, and it seemed like nobody on Milwaukee's lineup has a clutch gene. And Milwaukee ended up overcoming the first inning by scoring 2 in the second, but it was 3-0 in the second. It should have been closer to 4 or 5. That was really how I looked at it. You got to take advantage of all the opportunities you can get, and Milwaukee just didn't do that in the first inning, and Arizona did. Carroll had that 2-run homer, which definitely helped smooth things over. But I think looking at the Game 1 breakdown, both teams went a combined 4 for 21 with runners in scoring position, and it's a really bad look for Milwaukee because Arizona went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position, and they scored 6 runs. 1 for 10, and they scored 6. That is not a good look for Milwaukee.
Milwaukee yesterday, I'm trying to pull up their numbers exactly on the runners in scoring position. 3 of 11. Yeah. Diamondbacks 1 of 10 yesterday. But yeah, I mean, I think for Milwaukee, it's been the same story every single season dating back to the past, 4 to 5 years, that they have the pitching. They just don't have enough on the offensive side of the baseball. And again, if they don't address that going forward, they're not going to have a lot of success in the playoffs, because at the end of the day, you still have to score runs to win games in this baseball game. And for them to, like you mentioned, it was really that first inning where they should have blown it open there. And then if, let's just say, they got out to a 3-0 lead at that point, or maybe 3-0.
They did get out to a 3-0 lead. It was just an inning later, but still, they had so many chances to blow that game open early. And then Burnes blew up in the 3rd inning, but the game should not have been tied after 3. That's kind of my point. But I also want to point out Milwaukee went 3 for 11, but only one of those 3 hits generated a run. That was the single in the 1st inning. The other 2 didn't generate any runs. They had no key hits after the 2nd inning because the team against Arizona, Fod pitched 2 2/3. So you had 6 1/3 against Arizona's bullpen, and you scored no runs with 12 hits in the entire game.
Yeah, Adam pointing out 5th inning they had bases loaded, no outs, scored 0 run as well.
That was the Longoria line drive double play, but you're against Arizona's bullpen for 6 1/3 at home, and you can't score a run. Like, come on, Milwaukee.
Yeah. All right. So game 2 here on Wednesday evening, I would say. We'll see Zach Gallen getting the start here for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I know it's going to be Freddie Peralta getting the start here for the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers are a -130 home favorite here, +110 on the money line for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Total set at 7.5, juiced a little bit towards the over at -112. Run line -1.5 plus 164 against, for the Brewers, and plus 1.5 -198 here for the Arizona Diamondbacks, led by Zach Gallen. I'll start with Zach Gallen here, Scott. I know that he's been a pitcher that has, if you look at his road splits and home and road splits this season, has been the completely opposite story. At home this season in Arizona, 12-2 with a 2.47 ERA and 16 starts, 102 innings pitched, 28 earned runs allowed. Now we go to the road for Zach Gallen, 5-6 with a 4.42 ERA and 18 starts, 108 innings pitched, nearly double the amount of runs that he allowed. 53 earned runs he allowed on the road this season. Now the good news for Zach Gallen and the Diamondbacks, and if you're a fan of the Diamondbacks, he was really good this season against the Milwaukee Brewers. And let me see if those starts were at home or they were on the road. But nonetheless, he was 2-0 this season with a .64 ERA against the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, one start was at home where he went 7 innings, shutout baseball, and another start was in Milwaukee. Same story, 7 innings. He only allowed 1 earned run, 15 strikeouts combined in those 2 games for Zach Gallen here. Meanwhile, Freddie Peralta found his groove, I think, later in the season for this Milwaukee Brewers pitching staff. On the season, Peralta, let's see here, 12-10 with a 3.86 ERA, 210 strikeouts. At home, 7-4 with a 3.44 ERA. Didn't face the Diamondbacks this season. And the Brewers actually lost 3 out of his last 4 starts. But the problem with Peralta has been he is susceptible to giving up the home run because he allowed at least 1 home run in his last 5 starts. He allowed 2 home runs to the Miami Marlins in his last start back on Sunday in a game where he allowed 4 earned runs in 3 innings. But Scott, let's start. Why don't you kick us off with this game? Which way you're leaning between the Brewers and the Diamondbacks?
I'm on the under in this game. I think 7.5 is too high.
Yeah.
7.5 with Peralta and with Gallen sounds like a regular season number, but there is definitely a multiplier effect for the playoffs where you just expect less runs. It's just how it goes. So I'm kind of surprised it is 7.5. I thought in a playoff game this would be 7.
I thought he had 7 too.
It wouldn't be 6.5, but I thought it would be a flat 7, maybe juice to the under. 7.5 just feels too high because I like both pitchers. And I feel like when you're looking at Gallen, once again, not being a great road pitcher, but down the stretch, he had some big moments. I know that he ended up losing his start against Houston, but he was really good in that outing. He had 1 bad pitch to Abreu, which was a home run. Then it was overturned to a double, but he was still good for the most part in that start. Peralta's been fine, been good at home, but I think this total feels a bit high. We saw from yesterday's game that both teams can't get key hits to save their lives. I'm going to lean to the under here. I think 7.5 just feels too large with these pitchers. Case I'm mentioning, race to 5 runs, and neither's plus 115. I like that. I used to go after that prop all the time for my YouTube videos because you can get great deals on an under, basically, while getting a better price. But plus 115, I'm not sure either team gets to 5. I see this being a 3-2 game, 3-1 type game. I think it's going to be ugly. I think Milwaukee's going to find a way to win. Yeah. But I do think looking at the best prices available, the under is the best look for me because if you are expecting a lower scoring game between these teams with good starting pitchers on the mound, 7.5's too high for a total in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be, I think if the Brewers are going to win, it's have to be ugly. Like you mentioned, an under game, a 3-1, 3-2 type of victory for the Brewers. Again, I know we mentioned the numbers about Zach Gallen, but I just think that he should go along fairly well in this game for the Diamondbacks being their best pitcher by far. And I think Freddie Peralta will go along well here as well. You kind of look at the game yesterday. Both of these teams were in double-digit strikeouts as well. 10 strikeouts, team strikeouts for the Diamondbacks, and then 11 strikeouts for the Brewers as well. Corbin Burnes finished the game with 5 strikeouts. He only lasted 4 innings in that game, but he still had 5 strikeouts. So I really do like Freddie Peralta on his strikeouts prop today. That's at 5.5. Kind of going back and looking at what he did towards the end of the season, he was flirting with this number, but he did get over this projection of 5.5 in 3 out of his last 5 games during the regular season. He had a game where he had 9, 6, and then double digits against the Philadelphia Phillies. So again, I think if Peralta is able to go 5 to 6 innings here, he should definitely get over this number of 5.5 strikeouts. I love the under as well. I like the first 5 under. That's at 4. I'm surprised to see that at 4 as well. So I'll go under 4 in the first 5 innings. I like Freddie Peralta in this game here as well on his strikeouts. Maybe if his outs issued prop as well for Freddie Peralta. And then I'm with you. I think the Brewers pulled this out as well. They forced a game 3 going back to Arizona.
All
for
3 games
game
were in
3.
Milwaukee, I think.
Oh, they are?
I'm pretty sure the wild card series works that the higher seed hosts every game.
Okay. All right. Okay. So then, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, the Brewers still force a game 3 here. So minus 130 on the money line for me, and then first 5 innings under 4, and then I like Freddie Peralta on his strikeouts here as well. Anything else for this game, Scott?
Not really. Once again, if you want to go back to the no-hit market for batters, because I don't think there's going to be many runs, you can try to go after some batters that you think is going to look a little bit lost against high-quality pitching.
All right. Last series for the wild card series is going to be the other National League game. That is going to be the Miami Marlins. They are in Philadelphia against the Phillies. Yesterday, Phillies take care of business, led by Zach Wheeler in that game. They get the 4-1 victory over the Marlins. Zach Wheeler went 6 2/3 innings in that game, allowed only 5 hits, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts for Zach Wheeler. Jesus Luzardo wasn't too bad, I would say. He did allow 3 earned runs in 4 innings. He did allow 8 hits, did punch out 5 Philly batters. But then after that, the Marlins bullpen came in and they did their job. 5 innings, they only allowed 3 hits, did strike out 5 batters of the Phillies. And then for the Phillies bullpen, those guys came in and take care of business as well after the stellar performance from Zach Wheeler. They get the job done 4-1, looking to close it out here this afternoon on their home field. Scott, I think this game played out how I thought it would be. It was going to. I thought Zach Wheeler would come out and pitch here phenomenally. I thought the guys, whether it was the big bats of Trey Turner or Bryce Harper, would come in and make a difference. And I think they pretty much got the job done, and they got the victory 4-1, looking to close it out here in game 2. So no surprises for me in this game. What are your thoughts on the Phillies and the Marlins?
No, it's pretty standard. I thought Philly was going to sweep. I wasn't really hesitating with that. I thought they'd win the first 2 games kind of comfortably. They won game 1 comfortably. They got some insurance late, but we know Miami's not doing anything offensively on the road most of the time.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes. And I don't know how you thought the series would play out. I'm assuming you had Philly in 2.
I thought Marlins could sneak 1 out, and I think if they were going to sneak 1 out, it would have to be game 1. But I know we'll talk about game 2 in a second here. But I thought if they could, obviously, if they steal game 1, obviously would go to 3. But I think their backs are up against it now with Aaron Nola going on game 2. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody was shocked if Phillies do sweep.
I feel like the main takeaway that you get from watching these 2 teams play, first of all, Philly is the much more talented team. That's obvious. I mean, I can tell you that on paper. The other is just looking at the crowd in Philly. Do they have the best home field advantage besides maybe Atlanta?
I still think they have the better one over Atlanta
They might.
as well.
I'm just saying, Philly's home crowd, that entire game 1, like you remember from the World Series run last year, but you need a bit of a refresher. It was alarming how just crazy the crowd, in a good way, for Philly. The crowd amps that entire team. It's really it's kind of a game changer, to be honest. And when you're Miami, and even when you're good, nobody shows up to your games. Does that have an impact? It might.
I think so. I mean, that crowd, it could be intimidating. I mean, we know not even just baseball. I mean, we talk about the Eagles, Sixers fans as well in the NBA. I mean, they could be ruthless.
Criticize Philly fans all they want for being mean or, whatever, however you want to phrase it, towards opposing fans.
Yeah.
But when it comes to supporting their teams, they're as loyal and committed as you can find.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think the home crowd, not that they needed it, but I think it's definitely a nice boost. But my point is, it's going to be very difficult to beat Philly in Philly this entire postseason. And Miami doesn't have the guys.
Yeah. All right, so let's get over to game 2 here then. That's going to be a pitching matchup of Braxton Garrett, left-handed pitcher going for the Marlins, and then Aaron Nola is going to start here for the Philadelphia Phillies. Phillies are a minus 155 home favorite here, plus 130 on the money line for the Miami Marlins. Total is set at 8 in this game. Run line minus 1.5, plus 142 for the Phillies, and then plus 1.5, minus 170 for the Miami Marlins. You're expecting this to be a 2-0 series here. Anything different approaching game 2 here?
The only concern is that Nola has not been good against Miami, and we know Nola does have a home run problem. But looking at Garrett, he has been better on the road than at home. He's faced off against Philly 2 times this season. Mediocre numbers, 1-0 record, but he does have a 5.4 ERA. I'm just going to lean to Philly on the run line here. I really wasn't giving Miami much of a shot to win the series, and I think that Philly with the home crowd is just going to take care of business. They've been here before. They know what to expect, and I do think that getting game 1 in pretty convincing fashion. I know the scoreline was close at the end, kind of, but it really wasn't in doubt. Philly got a lead, and at that point, you just assumed they were going to hold on. I think Philly wins by multiple runs today. Garrett's first playoff start on the road. I don't think that, once again, Garrett's going to have great stuff today. He might be okay. I think Nola's going to be fine, but I do think Philly wins this game in multiple runs. I'll take the run line at plus money. I just think it's a good deal with a much better team at home.
Yeah, I know I didn't mention a lot of the umpire, stats here, kind of similar to the NFL referee report that I do. But at least for this game, the home team with Doug Eddings is behind the plate here. Home teams are 20-11 straight up, and the under is 18-10 in his games that he has umped. I was going to say officiated, but umped. But something is off with those numbers because it says 20-11 straight up for the home team, but only 28 games on the total that they've accounted for here. But nonetheless, again,
close enough.
Close enough. Close enough. But 20-11 for the home team here. I think if Nola can really settle in within that first or second inning, I do think that he can, probably stretch this out to probably at least six innings for Aaron Nola. The strikeouts are there for him as well. He struck out at least 6 batters in exactly 6 batters in all 3 starts this season against the Marlins. And like you mentioned, Scott, number one, the home run problem for Aaron Nola, and also that he allowed at least 4 earned runs, or allowed exactly 4 earned runs in all 3 starts this season against the Marlins. So I'll lean with Phillies closing it out here as well. I trust their bats more. I trust their starting pitching here as more as well. I think something similar to what we saw in game 1 of this wild card series, a 4-1, 4-2 type of victory here for the Philadelphia Phillies as well. The run line, I think, has some great value there as well at plus 142 on the minus 1.5. So, I think Phillies do get the job done here as well. Anything else for this game, Scott, before we get into our lock and dog?
Not really. A Miami team total under I'll also throw out there because I don't think Miami can hit, and that's not a hot take. This team's been really bad offensively all year long. They have a couple of good bats. Bell was good in game 1. Soler is always scary because he swings harder than arguably anybody else in the league. But I just think looking at the lineup, they don't have enough guys. It's just as simple as that.
I agree. The team total right now for the Marlins in this game is set at 3.5 with juice towards the unders, very so slightly at minus 120. All right, Scott, let's close out this episode strong for our game 2 picks with our lock and dog. You want to lead us off?
Sure. So for the lock, I think I am going to go. I'm torn between which under I want. Do I want the Twins under or do I want the Brewers under? I think I'm going to go with the Brewers first 5 under at 4. You said it was 4, right?
Yeah, 4.
I'll take the 4. Once again, 7.5 is a number you'd get with those 2 starting pitchers in the regular season. It's not the regular season. There's a multiplier effect in the playoffs. You have less runs in general. 3 of the first 4 games went under yesterday. I see a rock fight. We have Gallen against Peralta. I like both pitchers, and neither team get hit with guys on base yesterday. I see a low-scoring game. So I'll go with the first 5 under 4 in that matchup. And for my dog, give me Philly's run line. And you said, I think, plus 142.
Yep.
It's a great deal. I think Philly was going to sweep. I thought that, and nothing's changed. Miami can't hit. The crowd, the home field advantage is crazy for Philly. But they've been there before, and Miami hasn't. And that's good enough for me. So I'll go with Philly on the run line of plus 142.
All right. All right, for my lock, I am gonna go with. I'm just trying to pull up one stat here.
I'm guessing you're going Twins under as your lock.
I was gonna go with the Rays first 5 innings run line. Um, Number one, backing Zach Eflin at home, and then also fading Nathan Eovaldi, as we talked about ad volumes of how much he's been a gas can post All-Star break, and especially over his last 5 starts of the regular season. So at home this season, Zach Eflin and the Rays ended up with a 14-4 record straight up. And then in the first 5 innings, they were 12-5-1 straight up. And on the run line in the first 5 innings, 12-6. So they were up by 1 in 12 of the 18 starts that Zach Eflin made at Tropicana this season for the Rays. And I think the Rays should come out early, put up a couple runs. I wouldn't be surprised if they're up around 2-0 at the end of 2 innings or 3 innings. I think Zach Eflin can go along well here. So I'll take the Rays first 5 inning run line. That's at -105 right now as my lock. For my dog, do I go Brewers run line? I mean, it's a very nice price at +164.
The tricky part is backing a team that you don't trust actually getting any big
Offensively,
hits to
yeah.
win by multiple runs.
Yeah. I don't want to give out the same pick as you did because that doesn't go along very well when we do double picks. Let's go with the Twins. You know what? Let me see if I can put together a strikeout prop parlay here.
You want both starters in that game, or you talk about different games?
Yeah, different games. So I think I really like Freddie Peralta over 5.5 strikeouts.
You can do a money line parlay if you want to do that.
Yeah, because I really do like some of these strikeout props. All right, so I'm gonna go. All right, let's do this. I'll go Freddie Peralta over 5.5 strikeouts, and then Jose Berrios over 4.5 strikeouts. That gets you to +203.
Solid.
Yeah. So Freddie Peralta over 5.5 strikeouts for the Brewers, and then Jose Berrios for the Blue Jays over 4.5 strikeouts. That gets you around close to 2-1. I'll do that as my dog. I don't think I've ever given out a parlay during the regular season, but with 4 games,
Munaf's a parlay guy.
Yeah, it's different. So yeah, I like that. I'll go with that as my dog. Freddie Peralta over strikeouts, and then Jose Berrios over on the strikeout there as well. That is it. That's gonna do it. 4 games. Hopefully, we at least get maybe 1 or 2 game 3s on the Thursday schedule. So look out for that. We'll be live at the same time tomorrow if there are any game 3s happening on the Thursday schedule. So again, make sure if you haven't already subscribed to the MLB Gambling Podcast, now is the best time to do so as we hopefully can tear it up for the MLB playoffs here. But Scott, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Yes, I came up with my own baseball playoff drinking game.
Okay.
Take a drink, whatever you want, shots, or maybe even a sip of beer, every time somebody strikes out with a guy in scoring position.
All right. Okay. Maybe
you're going to drink a lot more than you think you're going to. That's all I'm going to say. It sneaks up on you.
You might be done within by the time the Blue Jays and the Twins play. Yeah.
Just saying. It's a fun time.
All right. Yeah, that is pretty much it. I know, Scott, you and I are doing the Thursday Night Football show here right after we get off.
Yep.
Yeah, so tune in for that. If you guys want to carry over to listening to me and Scott talk about some NFL, we'll talk about the Thursday Night Football game between the Commanders and the Bears. That's going to be a doozy. But yeah,
one of those times we're happy the game's not on TV, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll be over there on the NFL Gambling Podcast. So come join us if you guys want to talk some more as well. Till then, good luck with your bets. Hopefully, we can put some more money in your pockets for these game 2s. Good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.